One of the reasons that I wanted to start this YouTube channel is so that I could help people that were struggling with the same things that I was. 3D printing is one of those things that in and of itself is a whole other hobby, and so little tips, little tricks that you can learn from that are huge, and they make things 100 times easier if you have somebody who has the same problem that you do. And so I wanted to make this channel to help people having the same issues that I have. And so when I learn things, I want to pass those on as well. And so today, as I was painting, I was actually painting this. It's a Kraken for a D&D campaign that I'm doing. I started airbrushing it, because I thought airbrushing would be so much faster, and I wanted to get these cool blues and these purples in with it. And honestly, it was a lot harder than it should have been. So I thought today I'd share a couple tips that I've learned and hope that they help you too. Okay, so tip number 1. Airbrush comes with a hopper. Okay, some of them are mounted below. For the sake of what we're doing, we're just going to go over this airbrush that I have. This little small thing here is the hopper. It is plenty big for most of the things you're going to be painting. If you're going to be painting something bigger, switch to a bigger hopper. Okay, something like this. A lot of different airbrushes come with different size hoppers. But you'll see most people, when they're painting, they'll mix their paint and their thinner in this hopper. And that's fine. I do that. You only need a couple drops because honestly, it goes really far. The tip that I have is make sure that you are mixing it well, and you're mixing it before any of the paint gets inside of the little hole in the bottom of the hopper. Okay, because if the actual paint gets in there, that's where you're going to get clogs. Okay, and so make sure that when you mix it, it's nice and mixed before it ever gets inside of the airbrush itself. Okay, and if you are painting something large, instead of trying to mix it in the hopper, mix it in a cup. Mix it in something else first. Okay, and once you've got it all nice and smooth, and I kind of like to pour a little, not even pour it out, but just kind of let it run down the sides of the cup or something like that. So you can see it, and if you see little flecks of paint, it's not mixed well enough. Mix it up until it's all nice and smooth and relatively runny. Because once you have it in there, you paint it or you pour it out. And if it's got lumps in it and stuff like that, you're going to end up pouring it out. You're going to be having to clean your brush. Painting with an airbrush is supposed to be faster, but the second you get a clog, it becomes much longer. So make sure that you are mixing the paint with thinner as well as you can before you start painting. Tip number 2. So as you're mixing this paint, the thinner it is, the thinner it's going to go on your miniature, and the more coats you're going to have to do. The thicker it is, it's just like when you paint, 2 thin coats or 1 thick coat. It's the same with an airbrush. The thinner it is, the more coats you're going to have to do, which is up to you. If you don't want to risk ever clogging your airbrush, make it thinner. Okay. You'll use stuff like this, airbrush thinner. Okay. And airbrush thinner is awesome. I've seen people post things about using like isopropyl alcohol, which if you're printing with resin or anything like that, you have isopropyl alcohol. And I've done that before. And in my experience, go with thinner. Just because it's not that expensive. You don't use a lot of it. It lasts a long time. And it almost feels that when you use the thinner, that the paint just stays mixed with it a lot better than it does with the isopropyl alcohol. If you use the alcohol, you have to paint fast. You have to paint immediately with whatever you've mixed, and you can't save it because it'll just separate again. And so use the thinner for that. I once heard that you want to get your paint to the consistency of skim milk before you put it in your paintbrush or your airbrush, and that's fine. I liked it a little thicker than that, just a little bit thicker, and it went on the model perfect. I had to do only 1 coat in a lot of areas, 2 coats in some of the areas that it was a little harder, and I wanted a little more detail in. But Mix it well, mix it together until you get that nice consistency. Like I said, I like to watch it run down the sides of the cup or inside of your hopper where you're mixing it. If it's not running around the sides, too thick. You need to make it thinner. And the thinner it is, the easier it's going to come out of your brush. The beauty is when you get that nice middle point where it comes out nice and good color, and it's not too thick and it's not too thin. Okay, my third tip is simple. This is one that, it's kind of a no-brainer, but let's bring it up anyway. The farther away that you are with the airbrush, the larger the spray is going to be. It comes out in a spray. Think of it like casting a cone spell in D&D, right? It starts small and it gets bigger as it goes out. So the further away you start with your brush, the more it's going to hit. So if you're trying to get good detail, you do have to start close. If you're nervous about it, it's nice to always have a piece of paper around or something like that. You can test it on that piece of paper, see exactly where you need to be, and start that distance. Use your paper, use your table, whatever you're painting on, to help you gauge where to hold the airbrush. And then just do your best. Now, two last things that aren't necessarily tips, but are just kind of good practices. When you're using your brush, if it clogs, if nothing is coming out and you got the pressure all the way down, all the way back, paint should be coming out and it's not, don't give up. Don't think, oh, I gotta add more to it. I gotta empty it out. I gotta clean it out. Stop. Put your finger, put a sponge, put whatever you've got on the front of that and hold it. Hold the brush down, open up the air, and it will actually start to bubble up into the hopper. And what that'll do is it'll help loosen anything that's clogged there. So use that as just kind of a helpful tool. If it stops, put some pressure on the front of it, open it up, let it clear its pathway, try again, start again. And then lastly, clean your airbrush when you're done. Clean your airbrush, run some alcohol, mineral spirits, whatever you got, run through it a little bit, get it all nice and cleaned up at the end. Because if you don't, your nice quick airbrushing session next time is going to start with you having to take this thing apart, get inside of it, clean it out, and then you can start. So save yourself the hassle. Clean your brush so that the next time you paint, you'll be thanking yourself from the future or from the past, however that works. Okay, so these have just been a couple of the tips that I have for using an airbrush. I didn't want this video to be too long, and I'm not going to go over the details of the airbrush unless people want me to. If you want me to take the airbrush apart and show you kind of how everything all works, which I've had to do because I've had to clean it out a couple times by myself, I can do that. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want about anything you want us to talk about, and we'll do it. And just so you know, I've got multiple projects that I'm working on right now. I still have the Warhammer helmet that I'm sanding. Got to finish that up. I have the modular starship for a space D&D campaign that I'm working on. And I also have a 4x4 gaming board that I am in the process of making and trying to make under $20. So those of you who want to have your own gaming board can make it for under $20 yourselves. But stay tuned, like, subscribe if you have any interest in seeing those videos. And here at Polskate Gaming, we'll see you next time. And as always, don't spend so much time creating your world that you forget to spend some time in it. See ya.